Hi, boys and girls, it's Miss Cooper. I'm back with our everyday math lesson. Today, we are going to continue with multiplication strategies. We're going to work specifically today on doubling. So let's jump right in and read our first story. Think about this. A class sets up 4 rows with 6 chairs in each row for a total of 24 chairs. Another class sets up 4 more rows with 6 chairs in each row. Now there are 8 rows of chairs with 6 chairs in each row. How many chairs are there altogether? Now, before we think farther about this, I want you to think about what number did I double? I said we were going to be talking about doubling. Hopefully you realize that I doubled the rows, right? I had 4 rows with 6 chairs from the first class and then 4 rows with 6 chairs from the second class. So I'm doubling my amount of rows. So let's take a look at a better picture that explains it. So here we have the first class and it has 4 rows set up. Remember, rows go across 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we write our multiplication problem, it's 4 rows times 6 chairs in each row equals 24. That's the first class. The second class did the exact same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows times 6 chairs in each also equals 24. Now, anytime that we are adding a number to itself, like 24 plus 24, or we could multiply a number like 24 times 2, it's called doubling. So 24 plus 24 equals, I'll give you just about 5 seconds to think about that. Hopefully you got 48. And if we took 24 times 2, you would also know that that is 48. So there would be 48 total chairs. Now, as we're doubling today, we're also going to remember that when we solve for area, we do length times width. It's important to remember what those two words mean. Remember that length is how long something is. And when we talked about this earlier this year, I told you that length and long both start with L, so that's a good way to remember it. So length is how long something is. Width is how wide something is. So let's look at the green rectangle to the side as I read this story. Mrs. Jones is making a room number sign for her class that is 2 inches wide and 7 inches long. What is the area? And we just talked about how area is length times width. So I already have the problem started for you. Length is 7. The rectangle is 7 inches long times 2 inches wide. So 7 times 2 equals 14. And remember, when we do area, it's in square inches. So 14 square inches. Now, we're going to continue reading and we're going to do some doubling this time. Mrs. Jones made a larger sign for her room that is 4 inches wide and 7 inches long. How could we use the area of the 2 by 7 inch sign to find the area of the larger sign? Hopefully you've noticed by now that we took the 2 and we doubled it because we know 2 plus 2 equals 4. Or again, you could do 2 times 2 equals 4. So we've changed the width of the sign this time. So we can take this sign that the length has stayed the same in both of and just double this amount to figure it out. So we're going to do the same problem again. 7 times 2 equals 14 square inches. And so then we would take those two amounts and add them together. So 14 plus 14 equals 28 square inches. So our area for this bigger rectangle would be 28 square inches. So we're just doubling the amount. Let's try another one. Now the librarian likes Mrs. Jones's room number sign. She wants to make a larger sign, of course, that is 8 inches wide and 7 inches long for the library. How can the librarian use the area of the 4 by 7 sign to find the area of the new sign? So again, here's her sign that she made. that Mrs. Jones made, and it was 4 by 7. And so again, remember it's length times width. We're going to do 7 times 4 equals 28 square inches. So this area of this rectangle is 28 square inches. Now, if you look, the only thing that has changed is the width has doubled. The length in both of these has stayed 7. They're both 7 inches long. The width of the top one was 4. The librarian wants to double it and wants her sign to be 8 inches wide instead of 4. And we know that 4 plus 4 is 8. We also know that we said we could double something by multiplying it by 2. So 4 times 2 is also 8. So we're going to find the area of this blue triangle a second time. So 7 times 4 equals 28 square inches. So now all we have to do is take the two totals, 28 plus 28 equals, and I'll give you just a second to think about what is 28 plus 28. And hopefully you got 56 square inches. So the area of this bottom rectangle would be 56 square inches. Today you're going to do some more practice just like that. I'm going to give you some rectangles. You will find the area of the rectangle, and then I will ask what would happen if the width doubled, and so you had to find the area of 2 rectangles that same size. So it says in the box, if I use the doubling method that we learned today, if I had 2 purple rectangles like the one on the left, what would be the total area? So I've given you a little workspace. I reminded you that length times width is how we find area. So the length in that purple rectangle is how long it is. So it's 8 times the width is 3 equals 8 times 3. Remember, if you don't know 8 times 3, you could use a helper fact like 8 times 2. And I know that 8 times 2 is 16. And then I would add 8 more to that, and I would get 24. So the area of the purple rectangle is 24 square inches. Now, since I want to find the area of 2 rectangles, I'm doubling that. I'm going to do that same problem again. 8 times 3 equals 24 square inches. And now I'm going to simply take my answers and I'm going to add them together. 24 plus 24 equals, and I'll give you just a minute to think about that. 24 plus 24 equals 48 square inches. So our answer to if I had 2 purple rectangles, what would be the area? It would be 48 square inches. You're going to do some slides just like this for practice today. If you have questions, let me know.